Hey everybody, it's Brooke. Merry Christmas in July. Yeah, that. I am back. I'm working on Christmas projects, and as promised, I'm bringing you along just a little bit late. I've had these planned for a while, and it was kind of funny because Kathy Berg, whom I will link below, was doing the same technique this morning on her live stream. If you haven't checked her out, go check her out. She's awesome. And I'm going to show you 3 different ways to make envelopes, one of which is kind of a free-form way without any tools or anything. And that was inspired by Joie, who reminded me of this technique. And she is such a good teacher. She's amazing. She will also be linked down below, and let's do it. Okay, so check out Kathy and Joie, who is really known as Joie, but Joey's fun to say, but it's not very elegant. Joie herself is very elegant. Okay, so we're going to do one envelope, just kind of free form, and we're going to do one envelope with a Martha Stewart Scoreboard, and then we're going to do one envelope with the dreaded, maligned We Are Memory Keepers envelope scoreboard, which I actually really like. And I had recorded this video earlier, like a couple days ago, and several people said this morning that they hate their scoreboards and it's too confusing. So I thought I would go ahead and show you how I use it and hopefully take some of the mystery out, because they really are awesome. So let's get that out of the way. I pulled out some vintage music paper from a music book, Christmas music. This is a piece of scrapbook paper, 8.5 by 11, that I might have gotten at Michael's, not in a pad, but in like a package full of scrapbook paper, and I love it. I think it's beautiful, and the back is just plain white. I wish it was craft all the way through, but you know, what are you gonna do? And then the other piece of paper I pulled out was also from Michael's, and this was a Christmas pad maybe 3 years ago. I have used that thing to death. I love it. And I think this might be my last full 12 by 12 sheet, so I better stick with this video, because coming up, we're going to make a Christmas journal, and we're going to need some envelopes to do that. So this is a 12 by 12 sheet, white on the back. Doesn't matter. It can be anything, two-sided, a magazine, whatever you have is fine. These are just the papers that I pulled out. So let's start out with a free-form envelope. And again, this is a great technique. I've done it for a long time, but Joie's method is so much easier. And again, that video will be linked down below. I'm sure everybody knows Joie, but go and check out her video because she's a fabulous teacher. So this is an 8.5-ish piece of paper. Totally doesn't matter. Any paper, just depends on what size envelope you want to make. And I'm going to pull out, this is just a Post-it. So I'm going to pretend like I want to make an envelope for a card this size, in case there's a specific size you want to make. So I'm putting my card, also known as my Post-it note, trying to center it a little bit on this paper. Centered-ish, not a big deal. Okay, so that's our greeting card that we want to send to someone, and we want to make an envelope. So the first thing we're going to do is fold in the sides. This paper is, again, it's vintage and it folds beautifully. I'm going to use my bone folder just to get a good crisp fold. Don't have to have a bone folder. Use your scissors. You know, you can use the handle of your scissors. Use a plastic knife, like a flatware knife. Use your fingers. Use your fingernail. Whatever. I just happen to have my bone folder here, so I folded in the sides. And I'm going to fold up the bottom, trying to get those edges relatively straight. That will be helpful. End up with a better end product. Does not have to be exact, does not have to be perfect. Now, were I really making an envelope for a card, of course I would fold the top flap down further. Because we're really not making one, we're just making a free form envelope. I'm going to take that out and I'm going to just fold the paper over enough to overlap our bottom flap. So that, eyeballing it, that looks about good to me. It does look crooked. I wonder if one of my folds is crooked. Would that ever happen? Of course not. Okay, so I'm going to open this up, and you can see it overlaps beautifully, and that we have our envelope. What I'm going to do at this point, I would not do this, obviously, if I were going to put this in a journal or send it to someone in the mail, but so you can see the creases better and what I'm doing, I'm going to go ahead and mark our creases with this Sharpie so that you can see them. Sadly, my Sharpie is no longer sharp. That makes me feel just lonely inside. Every time I go to Michael's or any place like that that sells Sharpies open stock, I always buy a couple, and I don't know where they go. Well, of course I know where they go. They go into my daughter's rooms. Am I being ridiculous? Yes, I am. Oops, that slipped, but that's okay. You'll get the idea. All right, so I've just marked those creases so you guys could see them. Well, and maybe so I could see them too. But I wouldn't do this in real life if we were going to use this envelope. So basically, your envelope is done. You could fold that up, you could fold that down, and poof, glue the two sides, and that's an envelope. But we can gussy it up a little bit. Now, by folding in the sides, what happens is this little flap on either side makes a bit of a gusset so that your envelope will open wider and hold a fatter item or more items. What we need to do is reduce the bulk and shape our envelope. Okay, so we're going to be cutting out this bit and this bit and this bit and this bit. So cutting out the four corners. What I do, Joie is so brave, and she just takes her scissors and chop, 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 and cuts it, and it's perfect, and I was so impressed. I can't do that. I have to. I hate to say it. I don't really measure, because you guys know I'm not about measuring. I do make marks with a pencil, even if it's an envelope that's going in a journal. I don't use a Sharpie. Oh, I should probably use a Sharpie this time just so you can see, but normally I would use a pencil to make some marks. So the first marks I'm going to make are, and my envelopes are also shaped a little differently than Joey's are, and that's purely aesthetic, purely choice, whatever you know, it's not mandated. It's whatever you like, how you like them to look. So what I do is I make sure you guys can see this. Am I in frame? Always a good question. So first of all, I will mark this as the top, and I do that in pencil. So I remember which is the top flap and which is the bottom flap. Again, I'm a little goofy. And I'm going to just line this up a little bit on my grid mat. So I'm going to take my bottom flap and I want to shape it so this, you know, this will fold up like this. I want it to be shaped more like an envelope. So this is one that I made earlier, and you can see it kind of goes in a little bit, right? So instead of just being flat, it's got mitered edges. So let's go ahead, and what I will do is I will go up, well, actually I'll technically go down a little bit from this X. I'll go, I don't know, half an inch and half an inch, okay? And then I'm going to come in a little bit just so we have our taper, and I don't know, you know, I could measure it. I said I was going to measure it, and I'm not, but I'll come in about that much. You want to make sure that you're not going too far in, or it won't, when you fold your flap, it won't cover up your side gussets. I can tell already I'm making this too complicated. No, I'm not. It's really not complicated at all. Once you cut it out, you'll see what I mean. Okay, and now I do, as I said, I make those marks in pencil, and I do draw a line to cut on I am not fearless as Joie was, and I tend to get carried away and make things either really crooked or I cut too far in and the envelope doesn't go together right. So this is our bottom flap. I'm going to turn it around and we're going to do the same thing to our top flap. So again, what I'm going to do is I want to, from this intersection, I want to go up just a little bit, half an inch maybe. Okay, and then I want to go in a little bit further on the top edge. Okay, so maybe about there and make it equidistant about there. This is why my mat looks the way it does. I just drew on it with Sharpie. Then I'm going to draw a line and draw a line. And then we go all Edward Scissorhands on it. Yep, that's what we do now. Okay. So, let's see. And these do not have to be perfect cuts. It's just fine however it gets done, and you don't even have to do these lines. As I said, right after we did the folds, we had pretty much an envelope. So if you can see, I'm cutting along that line we made, then cutting up to our top fold. I'm going to turn it and just miter it a little bit. Okay, and that's going to reduce the bulk. Hopefully when we put it together, you'll see what I mean. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And I'm going to go straight and then go right along our line. Gosh, even drawing a line with a ruler, man, it's not straight. That's all right though. I'm gonna get past that. And then on the bottom, we'll do the same thing. So we'll start and cut out that line we made. Okay, go up to that dot, go to our fold, and miter a little bit. And miter a little bit. I'm just doing it backwards because it's easier for me to cut it this way. Alright, so now let's have a little look-see, shall we? There's our bottom. Oh, it's so cute. There's our top. Oh, it's so cute. And look, you guys, it goes together perfectly. And hopefully you can see. Let me grab the... We'll ink it. How about that? That way it'll be a little more obvious. Oh, when I did it upside down, I wasn't paying attention. The front side is right side up. The flaps are upside down. But that's okay. I mean, just the music is... So, oh, wrong side. Let's ink the right side so you can hopefully see what we just did. Super duper easy. Again, you don't have to make the marks. If you're a good steady cutter, as Joie obviously is, then just freehand it. I know myself well enough that taking the extra 15 seconds to mark it is gonna be worth it for me. So let's see. Oh, I didn't do that edge enough. Alrighty. So there is our very beautiful envelope. I think you can, oh, you can see it better now. See, and then I'm just going to take my unicorn glue, as Allison calls it, and put some glue right along the side flaps. I don't worry about getting right down to the bottom in here, like down to the very fold, because I'm not mailing sand, nor am I putting, you know, rice in my journal. It's going to be letters or greeting cards or photos or journaling cards. Those little tiny bits don't have to be glued. And by skipping that, I sort of reduce the chances of gluing it shut on the inside. Ask me if that's ever happened. No, of course not. So there we have this beautiful envelope. You can put your greeting card in there, seal it up, off it goes in the mail, or you can use it in your journal. You could bind it in right on this fold, and you'd have a pocket on one side and a flap on the other side, or if you bind it in the middle, you know, you can close it up and have an envelope in the middle of the signature. Tons of things you can do with envelopes. We all love them. We all have things that we can make envelopes out of. And you don't need any tools to do this one at all. The bone folder is totally optional, as I said. All right, so there's envelope number 1. Yay us. Envelope number 2, this is funny. And I know you guys know this. I always forget. I have a Martha Stewart scoreboard. And I always forget that with this scoreboard, you can make envelopes and boxes. I've never made a box with it, just saying. However, I have made envelopes. When you turn your scoreboard over, there's this handy dandy little guide. Okay. And so I thought I would make an envelope with the guide. And I think I'll zoom out just a little bit. I'm thinking that maybe that's a little close. Let's see if that makes it a little easier to see. If you don't have a Martha Stewart scoreboard, no worries. Just do the method I just showed you, or you can use your We Are Memory Keepers envelope punchboard if you have one of those. But freeforming it is always a good alternative. However, if you have one of these scoreboards, and I happen to know several people that do, use the tools that come with it. I will link the scoreboard down below. I am going to say I'm not affiliated with any of these companies. I don't think they make it anymore, so you're paying aftermarket prices, and it's expensive. There are other brands available that look, I haven't used them, but they look just about identical. So don't feel like you have to have a Martha Stewart. As long as it comes with this handy little guide, you're good to go. So this slides in right here, up in that corner, and it fits in quite snugly. It runs in on the scoring tracks. And let's see, what are we going to do with this one? Let's go ahead and use a 12 by 12 piece of paper. And again, this is just from a Michael's paper pad. And if you look up here, hopefully you can see this. This is the sizes for standard cards and envelopes. Up here in this little flappy, when I bought the scoreboard, it came with a bone folder in here. It was the saddest thing I'd ever seen. Very, very pointy. Always cut right through the paper. Yeah, that got 86'd. I just used this one. But there are more guides, size guides here for envelopes, or for cards and envelopes, and on this side for boxes. Again, I've never made a box with this, but kind of cool, right? This is a guide that you use for envelopes. So I have a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. What if we make an A7 envelope? Okay, it tells you right here, start with a 10 by 10 piece of paper. Then it gives you your A measurements and your B measurements. These are your A scores. These are your B scores. Fairly straightforward. But first of all, we have to cut down our piece of paper. So let me get out. Coincidentally, also a Martha Stewart product. Must have been on sale at Michael's that week or something. So we need, this is 12 by 12. So let's go ahead and chop this down to 10 by 10. And there we go. I will save these because look, nifty little tags in the making, right? We'll need those for our journals too. Get this out of the way. Here's our 10 by 10. Here is our Martha Stewart scoreboard. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to turn this over. I'm hoping that you can maybe see the scores better on the white side. So what we're going to do is turn our paper so that it's shaped like a diamond. You use your guide right there, and you're going to butt it right up against this guide. Okay, because this is a bigger piece of paper, it's going to kind of flap around up here, which is a little bit of a pain. The only thing that, the only difference this makes is you need to make sure that you're really butted up against this guide. So for my A score lines, what does it tell me to do? It says 3 1/4. So I'm going to go up this plastic guide, and there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and there's 1/4. Oh, I forgot this bone folder is a little thicker than these channels, but that's okay. I'm going to go pretty gently. Don't want to go ripping through my paper. Okay, so that's one side. And then we're going to flip it around to the other side of our diamond. Third base, if you'll pardon the expression. And we're going to go to 3 1/4 again. Oops, that's not 3 1/4, that's 3 1/2. Shh, we're going to 3 1/4. Okay, we're going to go down. We're going to go down. So we got some pretty good scores. Can you see those? Yeah, I think you can. So we've got scores on either side. Now we need to do our B measurements, our B score lines. So top and bottom. And this is telling me on our A7 envelope, those are going to be at 4 1/4. So we'll butt this paper right up against there. We'll go to 4 1/4, which is right here. Oops, sorry, I went too far. I went one turn too far. Whoopsie daisy. So here's 4, and I knew that because I could see the score. I don't know if you guys can, but I knew that because, oops, there's already a score on that side. My scoreboard saved me from myself. Good news. So we'll go right in that 4 1/4 channel. Go down gently. Go down gently a second time. Flip it around. And do our 4th side. And there's 4 1/4. 4 1/4. It doesn't feel right. Yeah, it feels like I'm slipping out of the channel. This bone folder is too thick for these channels. I always forget that. Let's see what we got here. Okay, we'll get that out of the way. We will give this a nice little fold on our score lines. See how it's looking. Then we have a little bit of cutting to do, but not much. Okay. Yep, looking good. Looking good. Yep, we're good to go. Okay, so I'm going to take our scissors, and hopefully you can see. And my lighting is just making me insane. Oh, good, you can see that right there, I think. So our score lines intersect, okay, and they leave a little triangle. And that happens on all 4 sides. Score lines intersect. Okay, and there's a little triangle. We're going to cut those triangles out on all 4 sides. Trying to cut on the score line as closely as I possibly can, but we have already established that cutting straight lines, even when they're this tiny and are marked, not always my strong suit, but that's okay. That is okay. We'll get them close enough. So we'll cut there, and we'll cut there. And again, both of these methods, all 3 of these methods, are very quick and very easy, especially if you're not trying to do it while explaining it. Just saying. Not that I mind, but they really are very quick. All 3 ways of making envelopes. Very speedy. Alright. So then we've got that. And I can tell right there, I don't know if you guys can see it, but I didn't cut that very straight. I kind of did a crap job. So I'll just give it a tiny haircut and then I'll feel better. And we'll take our glue. And once again, rather than trying to glue on the flaps, or on the side flaps rather, glue on the bottom and top flaps so you don't end up gluing your envelope closed. Oh, whoopsie! Do as I say, not as I do. Got a little carried away. On this one, in this style, it might have been easier to glue on the side flaps, but that's cool. Don't glue your envelope closed. There you go. Your tip for the day. And give that a good press down. And then this flap comes down. We'll give that a good 4-way press. Get all those creases nice and crisp. And look at that, you guys. Poof. A7 envelope done. Oh, I shouldn't pull that because the glue is still wet. But there you go. An A7 envelope. Isn't it beautiful? And it's so easy and it's so even. That makes me happy. Very neat and tidy, very easy. So if you have a Martha Stewart scoreboard, pull it out. Pull out the little plastic bit that's hiding in the back. I used to use it a lot before I got my envelope Punchboard. And then I just kind of forgot about it. But it's there and it's super handy. I wouldn't buy a scoreboard just to have that. But if you have one already or you need a scoreboard, look for one that has the envelope guide in it. Very handy. All right, so that's 2 ways of making envelopes. One more, Punchboard. So much bitterness about the Punchboard this morning at Kathy's. You guys, the Punchboard's awesome. My darling fiend, Darla Walker, whom we all know and love, she is awesome. I would link her below, but she doesn't have a channel. Gave me a tip some time ago, and it's genius. It makes this board so much easier. So again, this board did come with a bone folder here, so using the term loosely. It was a little blue guy that fit in there. It was about that long. Stupid. Take it out, throw it away. It's going to do nothing but cause you grief. So I have an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So let's see what size shall we make here. That is my one complaint about this. The writing is tiny and it's white on gray, which is not the easiest to read. Let's go with a 3.5 by 6.5 inch, well, card size. So we'll make the envelope for that size card. So we need to cut our paper to 8.25 by 8.25. All right, let's get out the big chopper again. And again, guys, the reason that I'm making envelopes is, first of all, because you can't have enough Christmas ephemera laying around or embellishments laying around while you're making journals, because, you know, it's awesome to have them ready to go, or just when you're working in your own journal, but also the journal that we're going to work on in the next few videos calls for some envelopes. Spoiler alert. All right, so we've got 8.25 by 8.25. And get out our punch board. Let's see if I can get these measurements right. Okay, so for this envelope, which is the bottom, or card size, it's the bottom measurements. And we want a 3.5 by 6.5 inch, I'm sorry, 8.25 by 8.25 piece of paper. That was the card size. And our score mark, good grief, is that hard to say? Our score line is going to be 3 1/8. Alrighty, off we go. So this is our paper. Cool. We're gonna poke the paper up under this little punchy thing, and it's got a foot sticking out. And what did I just say? Good God, I have no memory left, you guys. So 3 1/8 is our measurement. All right, so I've got the left-hand piece of the paper, the left-hand edge of the paper, lined up with 3 1/8 on this ruler. We're going to punch, and we're going to take our bone folder, and there is a line on the board. Right here, there's a channel right here, and that's where we're going to score. So you just stick your bone folder in there and kind of feel for it, and your bone folder will kind of fall into that channel pretty naturally. Okay, and again, I did 2 light ones instead of 1 heavy one. Then what the 2 light scores instead of 1 heavy score, sorry. What the Punchboard tells you to do next is make 1 turn and do this and do that and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this is the part where Darla taught me a better way. So here's what we just did, and there is a score line here, but you guys probably can't see it because I barely can. What I'm going to do is turn the envelope 180 degrees. So you see down here, this is where we just punched and scored. I'm going to put it in again, and I'm going to line the left-hand edge of the paper to 3 1/8, just where we just punched and scored on the opposite side. Okay, punching it and scoring it. Oops. Okay. I wonder if you guys, no, I can't do that. I hope you guys can see this okay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to, on one of the sides that isn't punched, so we have a punch here and a punch here. I can see this, and I don't think you guys can, and I'm sorry, but the score line that we just made is right here. I'm going to line that score line up with the foot. Here's that little pointy foot, and I'm going to make sure that this notch that we punched is lined up with the score line. Okay, and then, oh, I should punch first. I'm going to punch and score. And then I'm going to do that on the opposite side. Okay, so yeah, I can barely see the score line on this one. So here's our score line again. Doubt you can see it, but I'm lining up the score line with this little footy that sticks out of the punch, making sure that this notch lines up with the score line, or the score channel. I'm going to punch, and I'm going to score. What this does is makes sure all of your corners line up. So I know that some people had problems with when they folded their envelopes, they got weird little bumpies or it didn't match right. By doing it the way that Darla suggested, you don't have that problem because you're lining it up with the score channel and the score guide, also known as the little footy thing. So the other problem is that when you punch and just rotate a quarter of the way around, if you're inaccurate on that punch, you're going to magnify it. Every time you turn the paper, it's getting worse. So I will fold this and show you the difference. Oh, look, and here are the little punchy bits. I'm not saving these. So you can see on the inside, there's our envelope, all punched and pretty. So I'll take each little section. Each flappy gets its own fold. I like this paper. It does not crack, it doesn't tear, it's nice and sturdy. As I said, I just wish it were craft on the other side too, but it could get coffee dyed, it could get stamped, you could make a liner, you could leave it the hell alone, you know, whatever works for you. Okay, so here are our side flaps. There's our bottom flap. I'm not a huge fan of the way this sticks up so much, so what I generally do is fold it under. And you can cut it, or that's also not straight because that's how I am, but that's all right. You can cut it off, you can glue it under, whatever you want. So there's that, and that'll be our top flap. I didn't know for the longest time on your scoreboard, this section behind the punch is a corner rounder. So you can use that corner rounder. And boom, Bob's your uncle, my favorite expression. And look at that, you have a perfect envelope. No funny business at the corners, no gaps, no overlaps. All the corners are neat and tidy and just beautiful. Then you have your flap and you have your inside. So what I'll do is glue this down. Again, you could just lop it off. I don't know why I chose to glue it. Just because I did. If this were live, you could yell at me, but it's not. So there you go. And then we will put some glue on the flaps. And fold this up. Got glue fuzzies hanging around. And look at that. Again, it takes about 3 minutes tops, including figuring out what size paper to cut if you are doing it and not chatting and whatnot at the same time. It's super easy. Hopefully that made you hate your We Are Memory Keepers envelope punchboard a little less. That is how I use mine. Thank you so much, Darla. It makes such a difference to not follow all the directions here and to do it the way I just showed you. So we made 3 envelopes. Again, took kind of a long time because I was talking and what have you. We used a Martha Stewart scoreboard with the envelope guide. We used We Are Memory Keepers envelope punch board, and then we just went freeform. We went all crazy and stuff. So these are the envelope. Oh no, we didn't make this one this time. These are the 3 envelopes that we made. I'm loving them. Yeah, can't have enough good envelopes, as I said. And there's our music paper, and hopefully that helps you guys, gives you some ideas on making envelopes. Again, Joie DeFee, amazing. Thank you so much. Joie's video is linked down below, and make sure to check her out if you haven't before. And I will also link both of these items in the description, just in case anyone is curious. Shop around on this one. Yeah, a bunch of people make them, but that's the one I have. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. Go and make a bunch of envelopes so you're ready to go work on our journal in the next video, Christmas in July. If you liked what you saw, please go ahead and subscribe. Click the bell if you'd like to be notified when I go on live or post another video. Share it with a friend. And you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for coming to play with me. I'll see you soon. Be well. Stay safe. And if it's at all possible, you guys still stay home. And I'll talk to you soon. Love you. Bye.